I'm banned from Twitter. So if I issue a correction on something I said in a previous video, I have to issue it on YouTube, and then you guys have to watch it, or you don't have to watch it. Avril Haines didn't go to MIT. I mixed up Avril Haines and Kathleen Hicks. Kathleen Hicks is the Deputy Secretary of Defense, or she's going to be, behind, what's his name, Lloyd Austin. Lloyd Austin is probably going to be the first black Secretary of Defense that we've ever had. And he's not technical. He has a degree in history. Kathleen Hicks is not technical, and she has a degree in political science from MIT. And I was critical of her because I was critical about the whole situation. I'm like, dude, how in the world do you think it's a good idea to put like a non-technical man who's black, no offense. It's terrible that I don't, black people are never as good at science and computers and stuff, but they could be, but they need to be. And he's not a science guy. He's a history guy. And he went to West Point with everyone else that's ever been in charge of the Department of Defense. They all went to the same, they were all in the same freaking class. And he got put in charge by, if you haven't noticed, the Biden administration plays the race card on every single, every opportunity. Race card. And I feel like they play the race card to the point that they make bad decisions. This guy, Lloyd Austin, I feel like is the worst Secretary of Defense we've ever had. And I've heard that he was discussing some things that were very uncomfortable. Kathleen Hicks, I don't know anything about her, but Avril Haines is not Kathleen Hicks. Avril Haines, my understanding is that everyone at the CIA thinks she's the best, and she's the coolest person around, so everyone loves her, and that's how she ended up being the DNI. The DNI is who coordinates between all the intelligence agencies. Their job is super important, and the last DNI was like a religious nut. He was the most conservative congressperson in all of Congress, or the number 2 most conservative congressperson in all of Congress. And you have to understand, some of these little counties have a bunch of psychopath conservatives. And so when you get the most conservative congressperson being in charge of coordinating intelligence stuff, it means that they tend to lack common sense. Avril Haines, she had a little small bookshop that everyone's talked about how they had erotic readings there or something like that. But I feel like that's not what the bookshop was for. I don't think it was an erotic bookshop. I think that it was just a shop that sometimes had different authors, and which that tells me that she's an open-minded type person. And if you're gonna be the DNI, you need to be open-minded. Kind of like if you're gonna work in psyops, which is what I do. I do psychological operations. At least historically, that's what I viewed myself as doing. I viewed myself as someone that did psychological operations for the government. I did information warfare for the government. I did information operations. If you're going to work in psyops, you need to be someone that can think outside of the box. But apparently, some of these people that work in psyops are not outside the box thinkers. I'm talking about this woman that got arrested at the Capitol who was a radical Trump supporter. That was the most baffling thing I've ever heard in my life. But the thing is, radical conservatives can understand the world's psychology because the world is a very conservative place. But I'm not trying to keep the world the same. I'm trying to change it. And that's why the psychological operations I do are completely different. Because the operations I do are for gay rights, and they're for women's rights. And if you understand how important those things are, for controlling the world's population, because is it important that the world's population stay under control? Yeah, why? Because we're going to run out of oil and water. Because the world's already polluted. We don't want to destroy the planet, and if we don't want to destroy the planet, we don't want everyone having 8 babies. And who has 8 babies? Radical religious nuts. Everyone in the freaking Middle East wants to have 8 freaking children. And so you're not a good person if you're Kamala Harris, who has no children. She has stepchildren. And that's why when I said Kamala Harris is a good American, she has no kids, she works hard, she's a very ambitious woman, I was very complimenting her. I think that ambitious women's rights, liberal women's rights type women are good for our society. I think that the Duggars are bad for our society because they have too many babies. It's bad for the environment. I mean, they have selfish genes, and Kamala Harris apparently doesn't have selfish genes. She has genes that are selfish for herself. She's an ambitious woman that ended up becoming vice president, at least for right now. Which I think they're going to get impeached. I think they're going to have to get impeached, and I think that Kamala Harris, having been on the Intelligence Committee means that she knows that I was censored, and I was censored while I was running for president against her. And then they're all going to say, well, you didn't have a vice presidential partner. The vice president, like, the reason you need a vice president is to help you get votes. The Constitution says nothing about the president having to choose a vice president before they get elected. So I don't know if that argument's going to work. Anyway, so yeah, Avril Haines is not Kathleen Hicks. They both have H in their last name. They're both women that are high up in what is pretty much military. D&I is military, but it's not. Like, it's Kathleen Hicks is definitely military, and I think that's crazy because men want to blow stuff up. Men want to fight. You know, have you ever been with a little boy that will start punching you and be like, don't punch me? How often have you been with a little girl that starts punching you? Not as often. Women are not violent like men. But maybe Kathleen Hicks was a violent child. Hopefully she was. I know that's weird, but I really hope Kathleen Hicks was a violent person when she was a little kid. Because, like I said, like, there are like lesbians that could have those male instincts that are helpful for a Department of Defense person. But I think generally women are not violent enough to be in charge of the military. But they're definitely not the right person to lead the military, but I don't think she's going to be giving speeches. I think probably the Joint Chiefs of Staff, like the chairman of the Joint Chiefs of Staff, is going to be the person that gives the speeches on, like, that say, go kick their ass, and like that sort of stuff. And apparently Lloyd Austin, unless Lloyd Austin doesn't get approved by Congress, and hopefully he won't get approved because he's dangerous. Like, that guy is actually dangerous. Like, from what I've heard, the conversations he was having behind the scenes that he thought were secret, that guy's kind of psychotic.